the maid bolted out the front door, muttering under her breath, "Never again." Just then, Lucas Bennett stepped through the doorway and took in the mess that sprawled out before him. Spilled juice slick across the tiles, toys strewn like landmines, and the sharp glare of Madeline Carter, a wheelchair-bound billionaire in her early 60s, watching him like a hawk. "You will not last an hour," she said with a voice as cold as glass. Lucas offered her a half grin. "Wanna place a bet?" "But before anything else, let me say, if you're watching this, let us know where you're tuning in from. And don't forget to follow for more stories like this one." "Alright, let's dive in." Lucas didn't bother sitting down. Instead, he surveyed the room, a tipped-over cereal box bleeding flakes across the counter, an abandoned tablet still playing loud cartoons, and a little brunette girl perched silently by the window, legs crossed, eyes locked on him. "That's Lily," Madeline said, her voice flat like a slammed door. "She bites." Lily tilted her head slightly. "Only if you're mean." Lucas crouched beside her. "Then I think we'll get along just fine." He grabbed the sticky tablet, wiped it against his flannel shirt, and handed it back to her. She blinked, then silently took it. Madeline narrowed her eyes. "You think you're charming?" "Not here to charm," Lucas replied as he headed to the kitchen. "I'm here to work." He opened the refrigerator and shook his head at the sorry contents: spoiled milk, wilted greens. He grabbed a trash bag and began cleaning out the expired groceries. "You're throwing that out?" Madeline asked with mild offense. "It's gone bad," he said without hesitation. "And you're not living on garbage while I'm around." Her expression flickered. No one had spoken to her like that in years. From her corner, Lily whispered just loud enough for Lucas to hear, "Can we keep him?" Madeline's lips pressed into a tight line. "We'll see." The first hour was like walking a tightrope made of silence. Madeline remained parked in her chair, arms folded like a courtroom judge, watching his every move. The last few caretakers hadn't lasted 20 minutes. One had burst into tears when Lily poured a pitcher of water into her designer shoes. Another ran off when Madeline's biting sarcasm hit a little too close to home. Lucas, however, never flinched. He moved through the house with steady, deliberate energy, picking up mismatched socks near the doorway, loading dishes into the washer, sweeping up trails of cereal crumbs that led from the kitchen to the couch. Lily followed him like a cautious kitten, keeping a few paces behind, unsure whether to pounce or vanish. "Do you always clean other people's homes like it's your own?" Madeline asked, her tone sharp enough to slice through fabric. Lucas didn't look up from the dishwasher. "Only when someone hires me to make sure things don't fall apart." Madeline's jaw clenched. "Things aren't falling apart." With a quiet click, he shut the dishwasher. Then why did the last three scream their way out the front door? She had no quick comeback this time. And that she hated more than anything. Sensing a shift, Lily climbed onto the couch beside her mother. "He's different, Mom," she said softly. "He talks to me like I'm normal." Madeline's expression flickered, pain, maybe guilt, and something else Lucas couldn't quite name. Whatever it was, it rattled her. "Go to your room, Lily," she muttered, not unkindly. Lily obeyed, but not before flashing Lucas a sly, almost conspiratorial smile. When the girl was out of sight, Madeline wheeled closer to him, her eyes pinned on his face. "Let's be clear," she said. "You're not here to play savior. You're not here to fix us. You cook. You clean. You keep Lily out of trouble. That's it." Lucas met her stare evenly. "Understood. But just so you know, I don't think there's anything broken here." Something in her chest tightened at his words, sudden, unwanted. She turned away quickly, pretending not to hear it. "We'll see how long you last." But an hour later, while Lucas chopped vegetables at the kitchen island, Lily returned. She placed a crumpled sheet of paper on the counter beside him. It was a child's drawing, a smiling girl, a woman in a wheelchair, and a tall man standing between them. Above their heads, scrawled in shaky handwriting, were 3 simple words: "Don't leave yet." Lucas glanced toward the living room. Madeline wasn't looking at him, not exactly, but her head was tilted just enough. Barely perceptible. Maybe, just maybe, she had seen the drawing too. And maybe, just maybe, She had heard the silent plea in her daughter's tiny voice. The call for help came sooner than Lucas expected. He had just placed a steaming pot of homemade chicken soup on the table when a sudden loud crack split the air, followed by a piercing cry from upstairs. "Lily." Without hesitation, Lucas bolted toward the stairs, taking them two at a time. "Don't you dare!" Madeline's voice rang out behind him. But he was already gone. He found Lily on the floor, her small frame trembling, tears pooling in her eyes. Scratches covered her arms. Beside her, a collapsed bookshelf lay in a heap of toppled books and toys. Lucas dropped to his knees. His hands moved fast, scanning her for broken bones. Nothing serious. She sniffled. It just fell. He looked up at the wall. Loose brackets dangled from the plaster. Improperly installed. Careless work. His chest burned with quiet fury. "That thing nearly crushed you," he muttered. Madeline arrived seconds later, pale and breathless. "Lily, you know you're not supposed to." She froze, her eyes landing on the collapsed shelf. Her voice faltered. "Oh my God." Lucas turned toward her, his tone sharper than intended. "This is dangerous. Everything in this house needs to be checked, secured. All of it. Furniture, fixtures, anything that could hurt her." "I had contractors," she began. "They didn't do their job," he cut in, not bothering to soften it. Madeline stopped cold, visibly unaccustomed to being interrupted. A retort rose to her lips, but the look in Lucas's eyes, protective and steady, made her hesitate. She said nothing. He gently helped Lily to her feet, brushing dust from her tangled hair. "Soup's getting cold," he said with a calmness that masked the adrenaline still pounding through him. "You can eat now. I'll fix everything." Lily gave a tiny smile through her tears. "He's kinda bossy," she whispered. "Yeah," Madeline murmured, watching Lucas effortlessly lift the broken shelf like it weighed nothing. "But maybe that's what we need." Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Lucas stayed in the hallway tightening bolts on another unsteady shelving unit. Madeline stood quietly in the doorway, arms folded, voice quieter now. "Why are you really here, Lucas?" He didn't look up. "You mean aside from the paycheck?" She nodded. "Let's just say, I know what it feels like to grow up without someone who's supposed to be there." For the first time since he'd arrived, her expression softened. Not with suspicion, not with disdain, but something warmer, tentative trust. The next evening, long after Lily had gone to bed, the house lay in hushed silence. No TV, no footsteps, just the sound of steady rain tapping against the window panes. Lucas was drying the last dinner plate when he heard it, a faint sound drifting from down the hall. Not quite crying but close. He followed it to the study. There, by the window, Madeline sat in her wheelchair, slightly tilted so she could watch the storm outside. Her hands rested on her lap, fingers clenched tightly around a folded letter. "You ever knock?" she asked, eyes still on the rain. Her voice didn't carry the usual bite. It sounded tired. Lucas leaned casually against the doorway. "Not when I think someone could use some company." She let out a dry, bitter laugh. "Company or pity?" "There's a difference," Lucas said, stepping inside. "Pity leaves. Company sticks around." For a moment, only the rain answered. Then, slowly she lifted the letter. "It's from Lily's father." Lucas didn't speak. He let her choose whether to go on. "He left before she was born," Madeline said, her tone flat, lifeless. "Every year, on her birthday, he sends one of these. No return address. No signature. Just a check and some hollow message about how he hopes she's happy." She tossed the letter onto the desk. "I used to cash them. Now I burn them." Lucas studied her, how tense her jaw became, how her whole body seemed to hold in a storm it couldn't afford to release. "Why am I even telling you this?" she muttered. Her eyes finally met his. "Because you didn't run," she said. "Most people take one look at me, at us, and they bolt. But you stayed. And I can't figure out if that makes you brave, or just stupid." Lucas smiled faintly. Maybe a little of both. A soft silence settled between them, not awkward, just still. Then a voice floated down the hallway. "Fragile. Sleepy. Mom. I had a bad dream. Madeline spun her chair around instantly, but Lucas was already ahead of her. He scooped Lily up gently and carried her to the couch with calm urgency. Want me to stay until you fall asleep? He asked. She nodded, curling into his chest like it was the most natural thing in the world. Her tiny hand came to rest on his forearm, as if it had always belonged there. Madeline watched silently as her daughter's breathing slowed. The lines of tension on Lily's face softened, her weight settling against Lucas like a child who knew she was finally safe. And for the first time in what felt like years, the idea of someone staying, truly staying, did not terrify Madeline. What scared her now was how much she wanted that. The shift, when it came, was subtle. 2 weeks later, something in the house felt different. Not like a sudden crash, but more like the weather turning without notice. Lucas had just finished tightening the latch on the back gate when he stepped inside and heard something unexpected floating in from the kitchen. Laughter. Not polite, guarded chuckles, but real, unfiltered, joyful laughter. He froze, momentarily unsure if he was intruding on something private. But then, curiosity pulled him forward. There she was, Madeline, seated at the kitchen table with her sleeves rolled up, a faint flush rising in her cheeks. Lily sat perched on the counter beside her, carefully peeling apples. Golden light filtered through the kitchen window, catching in Madeline's dark hair and painting her face in soft warmth. Lucas stood still for a second, absorbing the scene. He had seen her exhausted. He had seen her guarded, angry, and alone. But this was new. This a team project that kicked me off the roster? He teased, leaning on the doorframe. Lily grinned, holding up a dripping slice of apple. We're making pie. Mom says you'll like it. Madeline shot him a look, dry with sarcasm, but the slight curve at the edge of her lips betrayed her. Don't get used to it. This is a one-time thing. Lucas stepped forward, snatched the apple slice from Lily's fingers, and popped it into his mouth. Too late. I already did. After that, they worked side by side. Lily giggled as Lucas exaggerated every move, taste-testing ingredients like a dramatic chef, narrating the process in a fake accent. Madeline rolled her eyes at his antics but never once asked him to stop. Their hands brushed once, both reaching for the cinnamon at the same time. Neither pulled away right away. Later that night, after Lily insisted on a bedtime story read specifically by Lucas, he found Madeline in the study. She wasn't gazing out the window like before. This time, she was looking directly at him. Her expression was quiet, open, and softer than he had ever seen it. I was wrong, she said softly. About how long I'd last? Lucas asked. She gave him a moment of silence, letting the weight of her words settle. Then she nodded. You did more than last, Lucas. You changed something, for her, for me. He stepped a little closer, slower now. Maybe, he said, it's time you stop waiting for people to walk out. Madeline's breath caught in her throat, like she had forgotten how to breathe. What if I asked you to stay? She whispered. Lucas didn't answer with words. Instead, he reached forward and took her hand gently into his. You already did. A quiet voice called from the hallway. So does that mean Lucas is ours now? Madeline laughed, a rich, unguarded sound that filled the entire room with light. Yes, sweetheart, she said, still holding Lucas's gaze. He's ours. Lily toddled into the room in her pajamas, plopped herself into Lucas's lap as if she had been doing it for years, and leaned against him. Madeline rolled closer, and for a long, peaceful moment, the three of them just sat there. No noise. No fear. Just the stillness of something whole. Madeline realized something then, something that had eluded her for so long. For years, she had measured safety by how tightly she could keep others out. Now, she finally understood what it truly meant to be safe. Having someone who walks in and never walks out. And Lucas? He had known all along. He wasn't here just for the job. If this story moved you, hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.